So with all these kind of like new commands that we're adding and, the API calls and stuff like that, there's more stuff that you need to configure. And so putting all of the onus to let the user configure everything, that can be a little bit daunting. So one way, you could check configuration, either using like list commands or the online documentation. However, sometimes it's more convenient to access it directly from the command line. So we've added tab completion, so CLI completions for a lot of the commands. So this should make it easier, especially like with configuration setting, to basically set the right configuration, what are the property names and stuff. So let me show that in, again, a demo container that I have spawned. So this is using the version merge into main, so which is also accessible to anyone. So we support the tab completion in 3 different shells. So zshell, bash, and fish. So it's very easy to load. So we just do loading the completions by then specifying. So normally you'd specify this maybe in your profile for your whatever shell that you do, and then just add this line to automatically import when you load a new shell, or you can just run it on demand doing this. So we're just sourcing a file that is generated by this command. And then afterwards, I get magic tab completion. So here I'm using zshell, so it's a little bit fancier completion. You get kind of nice selection. But you can already see it's not just completing the item. So in zshell, you also get a description about the stuff. So it kind of helps you decide what you're kind of looking for. So where it's mostly useful, so if we go config, and let's say if I want to, I don't know, get a specific, or maybe like, let's say set a specific configuration, we can see if I just tab here, it will go, hey, there's a lot of items here. Do you want to present it? You go, yes. And then I can actually get a list of all of the things that can be set along with the description. So obviously for large lists, doesn't really make too much sense, but generally you kind of like, when you start using thinedge, you kind of get a sense of where roughly the settings are. So for example, MQT, it starts with MQT. So I've already automatically then narrowed down the selection just because the way the hierarchy is for the configuration items, that I can already set, okay, this is, I can set the bind address, which is then used by Mosquito. So this is all kind of like complementing, so it's kind of like live documentation. So I don't need to do a list first and then copy paste that. It's much more immersive UX. So I know I've used this countless times to I kind of roughly know the configuration, but I always forget exact names. Whereas tab completion, it just eliminates the human error element of it. So you can do this for a lot of things. So I dare say there might be a few gaps here and there, because it's always, sometimes you want completion for a few things, or sometimes you can complete a few things, sometimes you can't. But for like a lot of commands, so if I wanted to maybe debug, so subscribe to the MQT broker locally, and then maybe I'm having some problems and I want to get some, like I know there's some kind of log level, but I'm not sure what the flag is called, instant. And even better, tab, because I can't remember, should it be uppercase, lowercase, is it a number or is it a string? Here I even get the values for the flag in completion. So I can then do a nice subscribe, and then I can see I've enabled debug log levels. So this is available for everything, like the tab completion. So we introduced, I think last time, did a quick demo saying that we can actually call the tedge agent via the tedge command now, instead of just using through the symlink that we have. So you can also like do casual kind of exploring about the options, how to start the tedge agent and all the different flags which are on offer. So having access to this on a device means that you can kind of save going directly to the documentation and having like 2 windows up. You can do it immediately from the console, which is very, very convenient. So we'll look to, so if you notice any kind of like missing bits, for example, if there's some like additional tab completions that you identify, feel free to create a ticket for that, we're happy to kind of evaluate, can we then make it even more convenient? So one category which would be definitely interesting to explore is for example, for some of the settings, currently I don't think we support the completion of the value. So here I did tab completion, but I didn't get offered any value. So that would definitely be like the next logical step to complete. But if you notice any other things like that, you can just create a ticket for us. But still, we're fairly good with even our error messages. So, if you don't know what the value is, generally, either you can look at the documentation for it, or sometimes you can take a wild guess. And because for strict types, we will do a validation. And generally, we try to be helpful in our error messages. And it even tells me here, okay, here they're completed. So even if there's gaps in the tab completion, we still have, a lot of useful tips that we give the users in the error messages. So it should be able to be fairly self-explanatory to say, okay, yes, I do want to use certificate, and then I'm good. So hopefully this will be useful to everyone. I know I've used it in even writing documentation, exploring. So I'm sure everyone will also find it quite useful.